Welcome to the Advantage Podcast, a monthly unscripted conversation with host David Ashcraft and top leaders impacting our world. Created by pastors for pastors to strengthen our leadership and expand our knowledge and influence. Episode 18 is the second of a two-part podcast. Part 1 can be found in episode 17. We join the conversation between David and Shawn Williams, senior pastor of Willow Creek Community Church, as they discuss the steps taken to help Willow turn around after a season of crisis.
Hey, Shawn, can I shift to how did you guys, what was in your mind? I think a lot of times when we step into a new situation, we think the first thing I need to do is either cast a new or fresh vision, or I need to reinvigorate people towards the vision of the church. And so what steps did you and Dave take in helping Willow turn around? Where did you start from that standpoint?
Yeah, the way that I think about it now, and I wouldn't have had this language 5 years ago, David, but the way I think about it now is I feel like it's the difference between what I would say building and rebuilding.
Okay.
And I had only known building types of works and ministry up to coming to Willow. And so whether it's, building a program or a ministry or a campus or a church or whatever you're building, and, this is a overly simplistic way to look at building, but most of us likely on this call have been a part of different building works. But
yeah.
The oversimplistic way to look at it is you have a white hot vision, and if that vision's strong enough, then that vision will galvanize people and resources to support that vision and make that vision become a reality. And once it becomes a reality, you typically cast a bigger vision that galvanizes more people and more resources and so on and so forth, right? And so, again, I know that's overly simplistic, but
Sure.
We are at least familiar with that kind of work. And I felt like when we got to Willow, the place where vision was once so strong, I don't know if I know of another church who had as visionary of a leader as Willow Creek.
Right.
And because of a crisis, that vision got shattered. And in everybody's mind, everybody realized this is not going to be what it once was. And there's a sense of loss with that. And there's a sense of grieving with that, the thing that I had longed for, given to, sacrificed for, you name it, is no more. And so that vision gets shattered. And so I think about, your rebuilders in scripture, like your Nehemiahs, and you think about like the vision of what the temple was in the city of Jerusalem as like the epicenter of the whole world, right? And God's presence living here. And when those foreign powers came in and overtook Jerusalem and shattered the temple. In a sense, not only did they ransack the temple, they shattered the vision. And really what Nehemiah did, he didn't just go back and rebuild a wall. He went back and rebuilt the vision of what once was. And you think about, like in Nehemiah's day, that vision laid in ruins for 150 years it laid in ruins, which is crazy. And so as we think about that, what I felt like was necessary is the vision. Because it had been shattered, it actually has to be set aside for the moment. So that vision that used to be in the driver's seat, that drove everything, it actually has to be set aside for the moment. And what gets in the driver's seat is your values, because you now have to redefine who you are. Who are we? Who are we going to be? Who do we want to be? Because you lose so much of a sense of your identity post-crisis that instead of vision being in the driver's seat, your values have to sit in the driver's seat, because you have to define who you are and who you're going to be. And so in our early work at Willow, even while we were making significant change, the most important work we were doing was values work.
So did you know that at the time, Shawn, or did you guys come in and let's refocus, re-strengthen the vision, and then kind of realize, we're not even ready for that yet? So was it intentional as you came to put the vision aside, or you just kind of figured that out as you were going through?
I think we figured it out when in Dave's first 90 days, we cast a vision and it flew like a 2,000-pound canary, right? It just like, this isn't going to work.
We're not ready for this. Yeah.
Your people weren't healthy enough to receive it.
Yeah.
Even if it was the right vision, the headwinds were so strong that your ability to take the new ground, it really wasn't possible. And so it just didn't fly. And it wasn't because it was the wrong vision. I actually feel like it was the right vision. But we took that vision, we set it aside, and we had to be really clear with where we were going as leaders. because we were about to make a million different decisions related to that vision, but we weren't yet ready to receive it publicly and basically take the next hill. It's almost like, I've never served in the armed forces, but I would imagine those who've actually been on the battlefield, and if they're in, a battlefield where they lose people on both sides, right? And their commander comes in and tells them to take the next hill. That might be the right next hill to take. But if I don't have people around me who can carry that through, it actually is not possible. And so that's maybe an extreme illustration to describe what we were in. But when your people aren't actually able to take the next hill, it may be the right vision, but it's just the wrong time to be able to step into it. So I wouldn't have had the language 5 years ago to say what I'm saying today.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, you realize that's why we had to put vision aside and not let that be in the driver's seat. And it's why we prioritized really getting healthy again. And so it was all about, how do we get our people healthy again? And how do we stabilize ourselves financially? How do we get ourselves into a spot to where when the time's right, we can put vision back into the driver's seat? And so that's really the work we've been doing for the last 4 to 5 years.
So when you talked about behaviors, and then I'll back up another step, Shawn. So it sounds like Dave kind of floated a vision out there. People weren't ready. They weren't healthy enough for that. I mean, it's like saying we're going to run a marathon when you're laying on your deathbed. And it's like, okay, we've got to be able to get out of bed and even just stand up before we can start talking about a marathon. And so probably similar kind of thing. So did everybody see that moment together from as far as the board and you and Dave? Did all of you come to that realization, we're not ready for this yet? Or was anybody still pushing you to drive towards a vision?
There were definitely individuals that were still pushing to drive toward a certain vision. And again, they're not necessarily wrong. I do think it's really important in Dave's heart, in the leadership team's heart, we needed to know what the vision was.
Yeah,
we
where
needed
you're
to
going.
know where we were headed. So they're not wrong in us being able to clearly define it, clearly articulate it, to be able to know exactly what the vision path is. It's just the readiness to implement or readiness to cast that vision. I wouldn't say we had 100% agreement as far as when the right time would be to do that, but everybody recognized that early on we weren't in a position to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, one of the things you're saying when you step into an environment, any new environment, but especially one that's been through things like maybe Willow, is you got to stop and assess and just figure out what condition are we in before you start running ahead and trying to run that marathon when everybody's laying there on gurneys,
Right.
hurt
That's
and
right.
wounded. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So you talked about starting with behaviors then. So what were there a few behaviors that you really focused on to say, let's do this to move forward?
Yeah, so we decided to take these surveys again. Willow had done surveys long before we got here, and so we were reinstituting something that Willow had already done. It's kind of already in the culture, but we knew it wasn't going to be good, and so we took those initial surveys, and they were everything we thought that they would be. They were really poor, but the
I
helpful.
don't know that I would have done the surveys because I mean I would have known already it's going to be pretty poor, but it probably helps to know how poor or yeah.
It was helpful for me to learn how poor is it and why was really the biggest piece.
Okay.
And the process actually earned us a lot of trust with the staff. And so we would survey them. We were very intentional to let people know, don't gamify the numbers. Your team doesn't win by having higher numbers. I need you to just tell me the truth. If it's bad, tell us it's bad. If it's good, tell us it's good and tell us why. And so they did. And we do these focus groups after we got the data. And then we create action plans. We told the staff what our action plans were. We would follow through with the action plan, and then we'd resurvey. And that process, what it did for us is it started earning us a lot of trust with our staff, that these leaders actually care about what our experience is, and they're willing to do whatever they can to make it better. And not just once, but we've done it over and over and over again. And so
Have
it's
you
actually,
multiple surveys since then?
gosh, I bet we've done maybe 5 or 6 now since I've been around. And
Good
so
for you.
really helpful. And every time we come out with this action plan and every time we take steps, and we've come a long way, David. We still have some road to travel. I wouldn't put us among the healthiest places to work in America yet. We're getting healthier and healthier every time we do it, and we're making some great progress. But that kind of thing, again, you talk about putting values in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Getting your team healthy and getting to the place that you can run that marathon that you were describing. We're just in a much better position today than we were.
Yeah, that's good. So, Shawn, I heard you speak in a separate environment a few weeks, maybe a month or so back. The GLN had a base camp, we call it. And so you took time to describe what had happened over the last 5 years. And I thought it was fascinating, and I thought it was real helpful for people to hear where you changed the order of where vision comes and things like that. So, describe a little bit what that looked like, if you remember, and what are the categories that you described?
Gosh, what did I say back in those days, David? Uh,
Well, I mean, you move. So one of the things that was very clear, and you've said this already as we've been talking today, you move vision back. So it wasn't the first thing that you led with, and there were several steps to getting to the point where now I think you are starting to talk about vision again. And that was part of why Dave decided to step away, as he felt like it was time to talk about vision. He wasn't the one to do it. He wanted you to be able to talk about the future because you're the one that's going to carry it out. Um,
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So to your point, again, we knew early on we needed to take vision out of the driver's seat. We need to put values in the driver's seat. Ultimately, if you do the values work well, values don't stay in the driver's seat. They start permeating your people. They permeate your culture. They don't need to be in the driver's seat because they become just what
who you
it's
are.
just how you operate.
That's
And
good.
so when you get to a healthier place, then you can put vision back in the driver's seat, which is its rightful place where it needs to be. And so for us, it really took getting our people, and when I say people, I mean our staff and our congregation, to a healthy place and getting our financial position stabilized. And so there was a lot of work that we did on both of those ends in order to get our people healthy and our financial position stabilized. Because when that's true, then you can put vision back in the driver's seat and feel like we can now galvanize our people and our resources back to support this vision to help it become a reality. So we're finally at a place we feel like we're ready to run that part of the race.
So, it's actually fun to hear you say that, Shawn. It actually helped me figure out LCBC 25 years ago. We went through 5 or 6 years of tumultuous times, but again, with very few people compared to what you guys are doing. But we grew from that 150, that 5 years, to about 600 people. And then it just took off. And people have asked me, why did it take off? And I never have known how to say that. I just said, I don't know. We quit trying to talk about who we were going to be, and we just started being. And that's what you just said. We started living out our values, living out the behaviors that we'd talked about. And it just kind of clicked all of a sudden. We started being. And that's kind of what you're describing as well. And then you can start talking about vision again once you get to that point.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think our values when we created them, David, were very aspirational. Like every one of them was very aspirational. And over the course of time, with a lot of hard work and being very methodical in the process, the goal is you get to the place that you can cut any of us open or any of our ministries open, and we bleed our values.
Yeah.
And they're just pervasive. You see them everywhere. And so that's more and more true of us. Again, I think there's always still a road to travel there, but it's
Sure.
more
Yeah.
and more true of us.
And I would think the more unhealthy a church is or a group of people are, it's going to take longer to start bleeding those values, I would
For
assume.
sure.
And there's no magical number. Some may do it faster or slower. But yeah.
For sure. When I first started, David, somebody told me that it's going to take 5 to 7 years before you start seeing any kind of positive trends at Willow. And I thought, 5 to 7 years? I mean, what kind of inept leader will it take that long to do it? And now sitting at the 5-year mark, you're going, gosh, that was wisdom being shared 5 years ago that I don't know that I was ready to hear 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But at the 5-year mark, feeling like, okay, I feel like we're now finally at a place that we're healthy to stand and healthy to start running.
So if somebody were to ask you, how's Willow doing now, and what's the congregation like, would you say it's very different personality-wise than it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Again, I wasn't here 10 years ago to have the comparison. I would imagine that's true. I think the way I think about it is we almost have two congregations in one. And one congregation is the group of people who've been around forever. And Willow, unlike any church I've ever been a part of, has literally hundreds and hundreds of people who've been here from the beginning. It's unbelievable the number of people who've been around 40 plus years. And part of that is the level of sacrifice that group of people made in order to see this church become a reality. And they are some of the most, generous, sacrificial. I love these people. They're amazing, amazing people. But you have a kind of a congregation of people who have been here 25 years plus. And then
Hey, Shawn, so can I just say about that group too, what I've noticed, they've sacrificed. That's part of why they stayed. They didn't want to walk away from what they sacrificed to build, but they also experienced life change at Willow.
He
And
did.
so they can't deny that there are problems, but they also can't deny that they're whole different people because of what they experienced at Willow. And so they're not ready to walk away from that yet. And I think that's cool. And one of the things I've enjoyed being around Willow more the last couple of years is just hearing people's stories and realizing it, regardless of what happened, lives have been changed because of it. So, yeah.
Oh, I mean, by the thousands, that's
Yeah,
true.
exactly. Yeah.
And so, uh, I mean, that segment of our congregation, I love that group of people.
Yeah.
And we have this whole segment of the congregation that 50% of our people are new in the last 5 years. And
Yeah.
so what you don't see is a lot of people who've been around 5 to 25 years, which is crazy. And my theory is that those are people who didn't have deep enough roots to weather the storm. Now,
Mm.
are there some? Sure. But the
Yeah.
vast majority of the congregation has either been there 25 plus years or less than 5.
Mm.
And so the less than 5 crowd, man, they're breathing a lot of new life into the church. It's a really diverse,
Yes.
we become a more diverse church. So we also poll our church, we survey our church. For the first time in our church's history, our South Barrington campus is 51% people of color versus 49% white Anglo. And so I mean, that's come from like 37% since I've been around. And so we're just
Yeah.
becoming a more diverse church. We're growing younger as a church. And so the group that are coming in that within the last 5 years, most of which are millennial generation or younger. And so a lot of young families. So it brings a lot of life, a lot of fun. One of our fastest growing ministries at the South Barrington locations are young adult ministry. And so we're seeing a lot of young adults, which is fun. And so, in some ways, yeah, it's a different congregation
Yeah.
because this segment is really growing in a beautiful way. And in some ways, we're not any different than what we've always been. And so, some of the DNA held by that group of people that have been around 25 to 50 years is the same DNA of who we are as a church today. It just looks a little bit different in how it gets implemented. But that group of people can be our greatest champions because they see this rich history being passed on to another generation, and it's a beautiful thing.
That's cool. Very cool. So, Shawn, let's kind of start drawing to a close here. What are you excited about in the future?
I think we're now poised to take some new ground for the kingdom, which we're really excited about. So, Willow's 50th year anniversary as a church is this October, October 12th, which we feel like gives us this huge catalytic opportunity to cast some new vision and take some new ground. And so, the way we're talking about it, thinking about it, it's some of Willow's foundational DNA pieces. But we're ready to take some new ground in each one of these areas. And so I think there's some new ground that we want to take in reaching people for Jesus and really
Yeah.
expanding our reach from our campuses. We want to take some new ground when it comes to discipleship and really create a thoughtful spiritual formation pathway that helps people really walk deeply with Jesus. We have a huge compassion oriented heartbeat as a church. And so that's always been true. It's true long before I got here. It's one of the things I love about Willow. And so we have some dreams about how we want to continue to expand that throughout Chicagoland and also through our global partnerships. And then leadership's, been a big piece of Willow's story for a long time. And so even the role you get to play now,
Yeah.
with the Global Leadership Network, and love our partnership with the Global Leadership Network, but have some dreams about how do we raise up a next generation of kingdom workers that will fuel the mission at Willow, but hopefully fuel the mission well beyond the walls of Willow and really fuel the kingdom in a meaningful way. So
Yeah. Very cool.
our hope is to take some of the things that have been a part of our DNA for a long time and really expand them to new heights in the season ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. So I said earlier, if I were to ask how to describe Willow right now, I think that it's getting healthy again. I think that you see strength. To your point, there's diversity. There are young people that maybe you didn't even see before 7, 8, 9 years ago. And so I just see a lot of positives. And I would just commend you and Dave for the work you guys have done, for sticking with it, not pulling out, Shawn. And so appreciate you from that standpoint. I think Dave did a couple of real cool things, even as I finish here. And part of why he stepped away when he did, at least as I understand it, was he wanted you to be able to cast the vision at the 50th anniversary. which it would have been real easy for him to say, you know what, I'll stay for the 50th and it'll be a big blowout and I get to be the center of that. But he was willing to turn that over to you. Are you preaching this Easter this year?
Yeah.
Which I think that's cool as well, because it would have been easy for him to say, I'll go out with one big bang at Easter, but he's giving you that opportunity. I know when I stepped away from LCBC, I wanted Jason to teach the Christmas. So I stepped away in November so that he could take Christmas. And I love Christmas, and it would have been fun to be there and hit record numbers that year and things like that. But it was like, nah, it's better for Jason to do that than me. And so stepping away in advance. So I commend Dave for doing that. And yeah. So thank you for taking time with us today. Excited for the future for you. If you were to ask pastors to pray for you, any specific way that would come to mind, or just for endurance and perseverance? Or
I appreciate that. We are in a transition season, right? And so it's a very healthy one, but I would treasure your prayers around that. I would ask you to pray for Dave and his family. Again, we commented a few different times. He's led so well and so faithfully. And even to your point, his decision of stepping out when he did was a very selfless one.
Yeah.
And so I would treasure your prayers for Dave as he continues to take his next steps in what God's calling him to. And he doesn't see himself currently leaving Chicagoland, and likely will even stick around Willow, which would be amazing. But we're praying for him. And if you could just pray for us as a church as we make the transition, that we can remain healthy, that it might even be a momentum building time for us as a church.
Yeah.
And then pray what's on the horizon for us.
That's cool. I truly, truly believe that the church across the United States, but a church across the world is better when Willow's better. And so definitely we want to be praying for you and encouraging you guys. And excited where you're going to take things, Shawn. So thank you for taking so much time with us today. Appreciate it, and excited for you and Willow and the church in the future.
I appreciate it, David. Always a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Advantage Podcast with David Ashcraft, and for participating in our goal to strengthen and encourage pastors and their churches so more people are introduced to Jesus across Pennsylvania. If you found this helpful, feel free to pass it along. To find out more about the work of The Advantage, visit our website at theadvantage.org.